Hello, everybody. I believe I'm live. Friends, family, fabulous folks, welcome to another episode. I actually didn't think I pressed the start button, but hey, here we go. Anyways, welcome to another episode of Fearless Story Productions. And today I really want to talk about something called the story spine and how this kind of archetype of a story structure can apply to our own self-journaling and storytelling practices. So this is just kind of one tip I want to offer up for finding your own personal story arcs to journal about. And what the story spine structure does is it can help you define your own personal stories so you can journal and find meaning within yourself in terms of that arc. So if you've been looking for a way to find your own personal stories and find one that you want to write about, and then pay attention here. And what I don't want you to do is to waste a bunch of time just trying to figure out what you want to write about. I think if you start with a model that we're going to talk about today, that will help you start just fitting in the pieces of where all of this makes sense for you. I want to show you real quick what the structure kind of looks like on a very simple basis. We have, if I'm not being completely blinded by this light, because it's pretty intense light, but I'm just going to read them off real quick before we continue. So it's essentially a 6-part sequence, and you can think about how this applies to maybe some journey you've been through in the last month, what you're doing this year in your job or on some projects around the house, or it could be really a decade-long vision of where you've come from, where you are now, and where you're going. So there's lots of places this fits in, and it will look very reminiscent of fairy tales and movies because story arcs, there are many models, but they all kind of bleed into themselves a bit. So the first step in what I'm presenting here is the story spine, which is not something I made up. It does exist out there in the world. But it starts with once upon a time there was. So meaning, okay, where were you at the beginning of the story? What was the scene? And the next step is that every day, blank, blank, blank. So this is more like your routine or what you were used to in your life before any kind of change occurred, because story is all about change and how we get from one place to the next. So number 2 is every day. Number 3, it's one day. So this is where there's an interruption to change. A story we all share right now is one day something called the coronavirus became a major concern globally. And you can see how that's sort of the antagonist or the inciting incident to whatever story this is. If it's one more of personal change, that could be the fact that I slept in and didn't make it to work because I was out partying with my friends and I got fired from my job. So what's that kind of event that triggered everything else? So when that event triggers on step 3, we get into the remainder of the story spine structure. So number 4 is one where a lot of action and build up and tension occurs, because number 4 simply is because of that. So because of that interruption, that step 3, because of that interruption, here's how you had to respond, or here's what you had to deal with, or here's a consequence that all of a sudden became really important or significant to build up to the conclusion of the story, which is the next step, number 5, which is stated as until finally. So if we get back to COVID quarantine, until finally our state and our county entered phase 4 of reopening status, and we all got to enjoy each other's company close together once again. The number 6 is kind of the happily ever after, or maybe even moral of the story, and it's that stated as, and ever since that day, or ever since then, So, and ever since then, we all started using hand sanitizer more regularly and stopped licking strangers in the face. And that's really where we draw a conclusion. So the reason I present this today is because it's just a useful model to turn to once in a while, when we don't understand where we are in our personal journeys, in our process of change, in our story, in our active stories, and the ones that are already closed and in our past. I find it very useful to journal not only presently, but also from the past and into the future, because stories shape our future just as much. And understanding the arc and the archetype, I guess it's slightly different, but understanding that offers the ability to kind of quickly draft up that what just seems like a random story of, oh, here's what happened, here's what happened, here's what happened, but really emphasizing the points that lead to that established pattern, and then an interruption, and then consequences, and then finally there's some breakthrough or some revolution that happened to settle everything, and now from that entire journey we've learned something, and we're doing something different, and we've created change, we've created impact. So that's really how the model flows. I won't get in too much more. I actually created an entire post on my website today. I put a link into this live video description, so you should be able to find it. And I'll also post this video there again. So I'm hoping to, as I create these and put these out there in all these episodes of Fearless Story Production, which is really fun for me, and I really enjoy this process and putting myself on and taking a small idea and just running with it. So I hope you all enjoy too. And just go to the webpage there if you want any more about this, and any questions, comments, criticisms, applause, and adulations, I'll take it too. So thank you, and I will catch y'all again next time.